Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's PC Gaming News Recap. This week we'll be taking a look at Back 4 Blood's upcoming beta, the End of Dragons preview event for Guild Wars 2. We'll talk about Elyon's launch date and microtransaction plans, that's great. As well as touching on this new space MMO Starbase, checking out some updates for Ashes of Creation, and then discussing the delay for Crimson Desert. Actually quite a bit of MMO news this week, which is exciting if any of you are tortured, conflicted souls like myself and enjoy this genre. It's such a it's a hell of a genre, huh? Anyways, let's get into the news. Kicking things off, we've got Back 4 Blood's upcoming beta. I really wanted to give you guys a heads up about this thing because it starts in just a couple of days. Now, I did do a video going over all of the details and everything we know about the game, but just in case you missed it, here's a little bit of a recap. Back 4 Blood is, of course, a 4-player co-op zombie shooter. It's from Turtle Rock Studios, the creators of Left 4 Dead and the less beloved Evolve. That game, was it really as bad as... Maybe it was, okay. They've said that their goal with Back 4 Blood is to take the elements that made Left 4 Dead great and then add modern tech, graphics, and overall improvements to enhance the experience and deliver what they hope will be the definitive next-gen co-op zombie FPS. They're focused on nailing the key pillars of having thrilling and fun moment-to-moment gameplay, making great experiences for both co-op and PvP fans, as well as upping the scale and scope with more enemies and more variety, and lastly, just trying to make sure that there's loads of replayability. That's pretty important in games like this, at least it has been for this genre in the past. So there are going to be two main modes that Back 4 Blood will be launching with. There's the 4-player co-op campaign. You'll be playing through these handcrafted missions that take place in unique locations, moving through the level and tasked with completing various objectives, of course fighting hordes of the zombies, which are called Ridden, and battling various bosses. And replayability of these missions will come in two parts, the director and the card system, both of which add elements of randomness to every playthrough while also trying to ramp up the difficulty. And then for PvP, there's the 4 vs 4 swarm mode, which pits one team of human cleaners and another team of the zombies, the Ridden, against each other. The cleaners try to survive, the Ridden try to eliminate them as fast as possible. Then both teams swap side, and the cleaner team who survives the longest is the one who wins. The game will be launching with 8 playable cleaners. These are essentially classes that have unique weapons, perks, and playstyles, and there will also be numerous playable Ridden for that game's PvP. I think it's a really solid looking game, like it's a modern day version of Left 4 Dead doing a little bit of its own things. Personally, I am super impressed with the gameplay that I've seen so far, and I'm pretty excited to jump into the beta to get my hands on it and try it out for myself. So there's an early access beta that's starting this week on Thursday, August 5th at noon Pacific time, running until Monday, August the 9th. Then there will be an open beta beginning on Thursday, August 12th, and that lasts until Monday, August 16th. Now, both beta tests will include a selection of Back 4 Blood's 2 game modes and characters. There will be 2 of the PvE maps for that 4-player co-op campaign, 2 PvP maps for that 4 vs 4 human vs Ridden swarm mode, as well as 5 of the 8 playable cleaners, 6 playable Ridden. There's also going to be this thing called the Fort Hope Communal Hub. I didn't even realize this game had this, but it sounds like it's just a town where you go and you can hang out and see other players. That's kind of cool. Apparently all of the game's weapons and gear will be in the betas, as well as access to cross-play and cross-gen support. So obviously the open beta is going to be available to anyone, but that early access beta that starts this week is going to require either a pre-order, registration on their website for a random chance to gain access, or you can use their Twitch drop system. So basically what they're asking you to do is make a WB Games account, connect it to your Twitch account, watch one of their sponsored Back 4 Blood streams on Twitch for 60 minutes, and then go to your Twitch Drops homepage and claim a key, which you can then redeem on your WB Game account. So it's a bit of hoops to jump through. It's kind of a pain, but it does let you check out the early access beta without having to go through the hassle of pre-ordering or waiting to get picked. And I'm pretty sure you could just like do that connecting of those accounts and just leave a Twitch stream running for 60 minutes, go AFK and do something else if you don't feel like watching someone screaming with their friends. I don't know. Why am I shit talking like Twitch streamers? I stream on Twitch sometimes. But yeah, you don't have to watch the stream for 60 minutes, but they want you to, you know what I mean? Anyways, like I said, I think this game looks fantastic, but things aren't all rosy for Back 4 Blood, especially according to many people in the Left 4 Dead community. There has been a bit of an uproar in recent months surrounding the game's planned monetization, the fact that it's going to have a season pass, and maybe biggest of all is the lack of mod support. And I totally understand these concerns, especially surrounding what they might mean for the game's longevity, like being the spiritual successor to Left 4 Dead, a series that has relied on mods to keep the game alive for years after the developer stopped working on it. Of course, people will be upset that Back 4 Blood is not going to have mod support, and obviously part of the reason it doesn't have mod support is because they want to be the ones to make the content, and they want to sell you that content. That's with the season pass and with those content updates. Now, the good news is, as I talked about in my video specifically dedicated to Back 4 Blood, like all the things we know so far, clickbait title, they're doing a good job of not splitting up the player base. With this additional content. In PvP, you can unlock everything just by playing. You won't be gated out of stuff. And in PvE, in that co-op campaign, as long as one person in your party of 4 has purchased like the new maps and new modes or whatever, the whole party can gain access to it. So that is good. But that doesn't, for the people who want mods to be able to support this game long term with community made things, that's not going to be a thing. They want to be in control, and yes, they want to charge for any new content that comes to the game. This is a general move in the gaming industry, like a lot of games and game types, like genres that I would have expected to have mods in the past when I was a kid, just don't have mods nowadays. I mean, I think of all the FPS games that almost always had mod support when I was younger. Nowadays, very few new FPS games launch with mod support. Like Call of Duty doesn't have mod support, does it? Does Battlefield have mod support? I don't think that does. Does Halo have mod support? Well, they've got the Forge thing, but that's not really the same. I don't know. Anyways, mod support just isn't as popular nowadays, especially for these big AAA, big budget games. They just want to do season. They want to sell you the content, like I said. So it's a bummer. I'm not surprised. I'm still looking forward to the game regardless, because it does look really good. Like, it looks like it's going to be super fun to play. Okay, moving on. Let's talk about Guild Wars 2. Last week, ArenaNet held the first reveal event for their upcoming End of Dragons expansion, showcasing some of what we can expect with this third major update for the game. So we got to take a look at portions of the brand new playable area, which is called Cantha. This is a mysterious realm dotted with islands, lush wilderness, and exotic architecture. This area was actually originally seen back in 2006 with the release of Guild Wars Factions. At the time, it was a fan favorite, and ArenaNet says they're pretty excited to be bringing this back for people. Of course, besides the additional story and the new zones, there will be a host of new systems, features, and content coming. We did get a sneak peek of some of that as well. For starters, they're adding fishing. Yes, it is finally an MMO. You can't be a true MMO if you don't have fishing. So Guild Wars 2, you're now an MMO. Congratulations. You're going to be able to fish in all sorts of areas in any water in the game. There will be hundreds of different kinds of fish to find, and they even said they're going to be tournament fishing events they'll be hosting. There's a brand new co-op mount. This is the Siege Turtle, capable of holding 2 riders. This will be great for veterans who want to carry new players around. They're adding personal skiffs, these little boats that you can use as mobile ferries for friends and guildmates. This will be good for fishing, obviously. New legendary weapons, the 3rd generation of these, this one inspired by an iconic Elder Dragon. There are new strike missions that provide challenging encounters for squads of 10. And for the first time ever, there will be challenge modes enabled shortly after the expansion launches for these. There's going to be a new guild hall called the Isle of Reflection. This apparently offers a good fishing spot as well. There's a lot of emphasis on fishing. Again, congratulations, you're now an MMO. Elite specializations. This is funny. I didn't actually know this about Guild Wars 2. So apparently with every expansion, they add a new specialization for every class, and that's going to be no different here. They're providing new ways to play with one new specialization coming for each of the game's 9 classes. In this stream, they showcased abilities for the brand new Mesmer specialization, which is the Virtuoso. It is a main hand dagger focused spec. I cannot believe that Guild Wars 2 basically adds a new spec for every class every expansion. Why doesn't every MMO do this? That's so good. They are planning on having these monthly, week-long elite spec beta events. This will be starting on August 17th and continuing on in September, October, and November. Every month there will be 1 week where you can test the upcoming specializations for the classes prior to the expansion launching next year. So End of Dragons, which was originally scheduled to launch this year, did get pushed back. It is now planned to release in February 2022. It will be priced at $29.99, and those beta events again will be starting on August 17th. In the past couple of months, I have actually been dabbling with Guild Wars 2 myself. I like to sit down for like an hour or two and kind of putz around. I made a brand new thief, I think it is, class running around with like pistols and daggers and stuff. It's really fun. I'm having a really good time. Guild Wars 2 definitely feels like an old MMO. I am still in those original zones, but I am really excited to keep on playing, keep leveling, check out these expansions that I missed, and I am super pumped to eventually have this launch of End of Dragons. I think it's actually really good that they pushed it back to February of next year. Generally, that's a pretty slow time when it comes to new releases. That would be a good time to sink my teeth into an MMO expansion, so I'm pretty pumped for this. Really looking forward to it. Speaking of MMOs, let's talk about Elyon. Last week, the action combat MMO Elyon got a release date. It will be launching this coming September 29th, or earlier if you pre-order. Yep, that's right. They're going to be going with the more money you spend, the earlier you can play our game method, which I'll say for MMOs in particular leaves a pretty bad first impression. So the base game can be pre-ordered for $30, and if you do that pre-order, you'll get a 24-hour head start on the launch. Then there are 2 additional packages costing more money and granting 48 or 72-hour head starts depending on what you buy. So here's the thing. The big concern with this sort of pricing for early access model really, I think, comes down to the genre. For example, if there's an FPS and you paid for early access and you got like a couple of days to play ahead of time, maybe it gives you some like early map knowledge, which will give you an advantage those first few days after launch where the entire player base doesn't know what's going on. But after that, it doesn't really make much of a difference. Where with an MMO, I think in particular, getting to pay for an extra head start is really frowned upon just due to the nature of the genre. Getting to reach max level faster, gearing up faster, being better equipped for PvP, especially in games that have open world PvP, getting access to those high-end resources and crafting, which will then let you do things like have an early control over the game's auction house and economy. There is a long list of reasons why letting players pay for extra days of early access in a game that has vertical progression, it's just a bad foot to start off on. Now, I think it's safe to assume, even though I say this, for their bottom line, they find it worth it, because truth is, they probably assume that a lot of MMO players do consider this a pretty big advantage, and for that reason, they figure they probably will get a good portion of those players to spend the money and purchase that early access pass for that very reason, which lends even more credit to the idea and what I'm saying, that yeah, this kind of early access does make a difference in this kind of game. And the way it looks to me, honestly, this whole situation, they probably don't expect Elyon to do terribly well in the West in the long term, so they're just trying to make as much cash as possible up front before the inevitable decline. And that's kind of a shame, because I've talked about this game a bit in past videos and I've heard some decent things. It wasn't looking like it was going to revolutionize the genre, but it did look like it could be fun for a few weeks of messing around. And honestly, that's probably still the case. Like, I don't know what else is coming out near the end of September at the moment, but if it's not too busy of a time, I would definitely want to check out Elyon. It doesn't look awful. It doesn't look amazing. Doesn't look like it's breaking any boundaries, but it doesn't look awful. But I gotta say, between this paid for early access and what we've seen so far of the cash shop, which is not looking great, I just would say I wouldn't hold your breath expecting this game to have a terribly long shelf life. That's all. After over a year of closed alpha, the upcoming space-themed MMO Starbase has come to early access. According to the Steam page, this is a hybrid voxel/vertex words-based space MMO with fully destructible and infinitely expanding universe. It's got to focus on building and designing spaceships and stations, exploration, resource gathering, crafting, trading, and combat. The early access version of Starbase will let players design, build, and modify modify spaceships, explore the universe, form social connections, and earn money by mining, gathering, crafting, and selling resources. Players can also start building their home stations and begin the expansion of the Starbase universe. The developer says the game is still in a very early alpha stage. It is missing features and gameplay loops, but they say that their vision is starting to come together, which is why it's now in early access. They're promising 2 to 3 updates every month while in early access, and they already have a pretty detailed roadmap of when major new features are coming, like the capital ship and station siege planned for August and September. So everything sounds good, and I would say the game looks neat, especially considering it's voxel-based. We have to keep that in mind. It can only look so good as a voxel-based early access game from a small developer, but the early impressions are not great. It's currently sitting at a mixed rating with over 2,000 user reviews at the moment. The general consensus seems to be that there are some really neat ideas, and it could be great someday, but it's not ready. Not even for an early access release. Apparently there's a lot of poorly implemented systems. It is not even remotely new user friendly. It's full of bugs, and it is incredibly grindy. In one of the reviews, they mentioned that you might have to fly for literal hours just to find certain resources that you need to progress. That is the overall gist of what I have seen from the top rated reviews that I read. But on the positive side, I will say even the negative reviews here say that there is the potential for something good here. It just needs more time to be ironed out. I guess that's kind of the point of early access. So as always with this kind of thing, if you're buying in early to alphas or early access or whatever, just buyer beware, realize it's not complete. This one in particular, not even remotely close to complete. Speaking of things that are incomplete, let's talk about Ashes of Creation. The Alpha 1 test has been underway for a few weeks now. Some of you might remember that I did cover this game after spending a couple of days playing it myself. There were certainly some things I enjoyed, but it was also pretty clear that the game was far from complete. Not that this wasn't expected. The Alpha was clearly marketed as such, and that it was meant to be more of a test of various game and back-end systems. But given that the access sits behind a $500 paywall, I just wanted to make it abundantly clear in my coverage for anyone who might have considered buying in. But the point being, yes, this is an actual alpha. The game is years away from launch, but it does look like the framework is there of what could be a good MMO eventually. Well, the current Alpha 1 will be ending soon on August 13th, at which point further testing will be down, they say, for several months, and they'll be using that time to take some lessons and the feedback that they've gathered in the alpha and iterate on the game. And thanks to a recent development live stream, we did actually get some information about some of what's changing. And in the immediate future, they're going to be making adjustments to the melee combat. They'll be changing from the currently rooted model, where any basic attacks kind of have the players moving slightly forward with every swing, and this will be shifting to a more directionally controlled series of melee swings. It's going to be similar to how the combat worked in Apocalypse, that Ashes of Creation Battle Royale spin-off that they did. For the time being, players will have the option as well of swapping between the two melee combat styles. The stream also showcased a bunch of concept art. They talked a lot about stuff like that. They showed a bunch of these mounts. They are obsessed with mounts in this game. I feel like every day I'm hearing about new mounts. I also feel weird. It's like I'm the only MMO player in the world who just, I don't care about mounts at all. But if you do like mounts, Ashes of Creation is going to have loads of them. And they wrapped up with a quick Q&A where the studio's CEO answered a few questions. He mentioned that they will be adding more keybind customization. I'm a huge fan of using shift keys in my MMOs, so I'm glad there'll be more options here. Sprinting, which is currently infinite, is going to be changed to more limited at the cost of 1% of your mana. They also talked a bit about when you're going to gain access to boats in the leveling experience. I'll say this here. I am not fully on board the Ashes of Creation hype train, but I do see the potential, and I love some of their systems. The evolving world, the growing and customizable towns, the node system in every zone, the castle sieges. I really hope this game turns out great when it comes out in 2025 or so. And the last big story for this week is Crimson Desert, the upcoming action-adventure game from the creators of Black Desert Online, has been delayed. This was originally set to launch this winter, 2021. And the game's release, though, has been put on hold for an unspecified length of time. To quote the announcement that was made via Twitter, "We have decided that we need to dedicate more time to adding new ideas for an even deeper, more enriching game. Therefore, in order to create the best possible experience, all while ensuring the health and safety of everyone involved in delivering the game, we have decided to delay Crimson Desert's release. We will provide an updated schedule in the future." So there's nothing specific right now. The game's launch is just delayed. Crimson Desert has gotten a lot of buzz ever since it was first revealed. Originally, they actually called this a new MMO from the creators of Black Desert. However, the genre was later reined in, and now it is officially classified on all of their marketing material as a massive open-world action-adventure game with content designed for both solo play and multiplayer. MMO or not, I think the game looks fantastic. In fact, funny enough, I enjoyed Black Desert Online the most when I played it kind of casually, like a single-player title, just putzing around at my own pace, not being bothered with the group content, not being bothered with the PvP. So I'm pretty happy to see whatever they end up doing with Crimson Desert. The game looks great, combat looks awesome. If they can deliver a pretty-looking game that is fun to play and is immersive to just putz around and do RPG stuff, I will be pretty happy. So those are the biggest stories of this week. A couple of other small things I want to touch on. First up, we got some new gameplay trailers for Lost Ark of both the Mage and the Assassin class. These things look pretty awesome. This game continues to look really, really cool. And we also got some details. So we know the game is free to play, but they are, of course, going to have Founders Packs you can buy, ranging from bronze to platinum. These will sell things like cosmetics, pets, consumables, currencies, beta access, and a launch head start. Like I just mentioned with the Elyon game, you know my thoughts on paid for launch head starts. Moving on, we got a launch trailer for this upcoming surrealist action-adventure RPG, Grime. Now, this game actually just barely didn't make it onto my top 10 upcoming PC games of the month, but it was really, really close. This thing looks pretty cool. I like the vibe, the look, the style, the setting. This will be launching on August 9th and does seem pretty promising, I think, so keep your eyes on this one. And finally, I wanted to let you know that they were testing server merge systems for New World. So the beta is wrapping up here for New World, but they recently merged several pairs of servers together. Apparently this went off without a hitch. This is really important because you got to keep in mind that New World has relatively small servers for an MMO. Last I heard, they were aiming around 1,000 players per server. That might have been bumped up a little bit, but regardless, that's kind of small in like MMO terms. Usually MMO servers hold thousands, multiple thousands of players. The fact that they're testing this, I think, is pretty important just for the server health. Like if you get on a server and a couple weeks in, half the player base is gone, it's going to be important that you get merged into other, because they don't have like phasing in this game where servers phase in and out of each other. Everyone who makes a character on that server, you see them when they're there. There's no like disappearing of them and seeing some people from some servers and then sometimes seeing some people from other servers. Everyone on your server who made a character on your server, you will know they will always be there. When they're logged in, you will be able to see them where they're physically standing. A lot of MMOs nowadays have these phasing systems, but that's not what New World's doing. But the point being, because they're not doing this phasing and this cross-server stuff, being able to merge servers together when those populations go down, this will be absolutely crucial to make sure the game doesn't die for people when the player base inevitably drops. It will happen. It happens with every MMO. There'll be a huge surge a few weeks in, that will drop down, and some servers will be impacted more than others. So it's good that they're doing this nice and early, and I'm glad to hear that the test that they did in the beta apparently went down pretty well. And with that, that'll do it for this week's PC gaming news recap. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Some good stuff. Lots of MMO news this week, which some of you will maybe hate, but you know me, I love the genre, so pretty cool. I'm excited. It's a good time. This is a really good year for MMO fans. I'm pretty stoked. But also other stuff like Back 4 Blood. I can't wait to play that. I'm pumped this week. I'll probably do some coverage on that as well. Maybe you'll see some gameplay or thought videos from me there. But that's it for this video. Thank you for watching. As always, appreciate your support, and I'll see you guys later, all right? Take it easy.